Happy New Year! It's hard to believe that we are already in 2025. Over the past few weeks, and as 2024 came to an end, I took a careful look at our homeschool resources, the curriculums. We have chosen what is serving my sons well, what is working, and what is not working. And I decided which things would stay and which things would go. So, if you've been following along or if you're interested in this process, stay tuned because I'm going to continue discussing how we're using the Alveary and which parts we decided had to go for the rest of this school year and which parts we are continuing. Welcome back to Kindle Togetherness. I'm Sarah Ruth, and here on our channel, we share all things faith-filled homemaking, faith-filled learning, and faith-filled adventures. Today, I want to invite you to grab your favorite cup of hot drink and pull up a chair so we can talk about changes and adjustments that I made coming into the new year, into 2025, with our homeschooling curriculum. I have seen many people talk about how they do this. I'm going to be honest, I am not a type A person. The fine details and nuances, those things are not me. I don't itemize things. I like a good checklist, but it's okay with me if I just use it as a guide and all the boxes don't get checked. And it's hard for me to communicate sometimes processes and things that I have in place in my own life, partially because they're kind of like intuitive systems and rhythms that I live by instead of being rigid formulas that get me to a designated goal. And I think God makes us all different, and it's perfectly fine to be that type A personality. I think He makes certain people that way, and it's very beneficial. I need those people in my life. But I just want to communicate that what you're going to hear from me today, it's not this like tried and true method that I can pass to you and then you're going to be able to replicate it perfectly and now have this system in place. Probably what's going to happen as you're watching this video is you'll get a little spark of inspiration here or there, or kind of get an insight into what's been working for us. Not sure that I'm going to be able to give you a step-by-step of how to look at the curriculum you've been using for several months and decide what stays and what goes, because the way that I do that is not as easy to communicate probably, or as rigid as it needs to be in order to share it with somebody else so they could replicate it. But that said, coming into the new year, every year, I have always taken some time to look at my lessons and the curriculum that we are using. I will say we've never jumped ship on a curriculum mid-year, and I would be hard-pressed to do that. It would have to be really, like, there'd have to be a really good reason, apart from like a math shift. But otherwise, we've not like just tossed out all of our history and linked charts and all those things and started fresh in the middle of the year. We typically make those types of changes, which we've only had to do one time, in between the school year beginning for us. So if I was going to make a change in what curriculum option, like our whole package of curriculum, it would be after we finish out using what we have. And that's for two reasons for me. Reason number one is financial. We don't have limitless funds, and I have to be frugal with what we're using, and I need to stay the course with the decision that I made. And secondly, I think trying to learn and establish a new curriculum takes time. Many of you may already know that we left a curriculum we were using and loved for 5 years, A Gentle Feast. We stopped using it this year, and we switched into the Alveary, and it took us months to finally find our rhythm again and our way. There were things that crossed over between the two because they're the same philosophy of education, but choosing a brand new curriculum, something you've never done before, is going to take time to kind of settle into your home and for you to figure out how to use it. So those are the two reasons why I don't make this huge curriculum shift in the middle of a school year. What I do is, as we are kind of wrapping up some of our lessons, we don't take like a huge break every December. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. I'm a very intuitive kind of, like I said, I'm not a type A personality. So you're not going to find a planner in my house that's like, these are the 6 weeks we're taking off throughout the year and they're all planned out. Just not how it works. We kind of take life in stride. I have a general idea of what's going on in the next week or two. We have a rhythm to our weeks where we school for 3 days, Monday through Wednesday most weeks. And then on Thursday and Friday, we get together with our co-op that I run in the woods and outside. And we just do all the wonderful things that involves. So, in December, as we're kind of slowing down and celebrating holidays and not doing school as much, I take several days, sometimes even a week or two, and just start to analyze and reflect and think about how things are going. I will pray, I will write some things down, I will make observations, I'll look at our exams that my boys do, and just make some decisions about what's working. And so without further ado, I'm going to tell you some things, shocker, that we dropped. I'm going to specifically one thing in the Alveary that I really was looking forward to and was so excited to have because they build these in and I just want to say this in preface, they were really well done. Just like every other lesson that we've tried, every other plan we've tried from the Alveary, they've been great. So this is not a reflection on the way it was planned or the materials or resources provided. I would still recommend them. I think it's a reflection of where we are and our own diligence, the time constraints we have. And yeah, so we ditched Spanish. I know, I have a little bit of a walk of shame there because I certainly want my children to have a second language. And I don't know, I'm still praying about how that's going to work and what that's going to look like. We've just never successfully, faithfully executed Spanish. I've tried several different things throughout the years. We've done flip-flop Spanish. We have done some things with niños and nature or nature and niños. There's one we tried that was online. To be honest with you, I really, as somebody who teaches English as a second language, as part of my profession, I'm a big fan of lessons from a native speaker, which is kind of pricey and not in our budget right now. So we'll just see where that goes. I'm praying about if we need to start Latin next year and maybe forgo Spanish for a couple years and focus on Latin and kind of building some of that into our days for a variety of reasons. But we ditched Spanish. And how did I come to that decision? So there were several factors at play. So the way Spanish is set up with the Alveary is they have it scheduled for 5 days a week, which is, I think, pretty important with language learning. It's like 20-ish minutes to 30 minutes, 5 days a week. They have wonderful books included, songs. They have a native speaker on video providing pronunciation instructions so you can hear and repeat. Really great stuff. However, we only do lessons Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday and Friday we have other commitments. So I feel like that kind of caused some issues. It was just hard to kind of swing into the next week and continue on that 5-day rotation. And then I just noticed, one of my son's attitudes was horrible. Every single time I brought out Spanish, which was every morning during family lessons, and I just couldn't pull him out of it. I couldn't make it fun and interesting for him. And while we were picking up some vocabulary, we were not learning the sentences and the questions. And I only had one son. He was able to translate most of them and understood what was being asked. But he's also this is his natural bend, is language and memorization and those things. So it made sense that it worked a little bit for him. So all said and done, I pulled that from our schedule, felt a big exhale. I felt like I had been pushing it and kind of forcing it towards the end of the last term. And interestingly, we started back our lessons after the holidays, and my 9-year-old, on like the second or third day, he's like, I was like, why aren't we doing Spanish? And I said, well, buddy, I felt like they weren't serving us well. Like it just wasn't working out for us. And he goes, oh, you're right, Mom. I had started to wonder why we kept doing them. I thought, okay, good choice, Mama. So I feel like that was a good choice that I made. And so that's the one thing that we completely transitioned out of. Everything else at this point we are keeping, except, and this is kind of a little different, but I'm making a change in my youngest reading curriculum. So I have a brand new 8-year-old. Just a few weeks ago, he turned 8, and his reading development and literacy is going differently than my other boys. My other 2 sons, I was able to go with a more Charlotte Mason style approach. And I liked it, and they liked it, and they're solid readers in my opinion. However, my youngest he is slowly progressing, like very, very slowly, and I've tried to give him a lot of time and faithfulness. But I think there's some other things going on, and I had already made a shift away from the more Charlotte Mason type of reading lesson that I used with my other 2 boys. I went to a more phonics, very strict phonics-based approach. But we're going to go even a step further now because we've been trying that for over almost 2 years. And I don't see it clicking for him the way that I would like for it to now at this point, at this stage. So I have gone ahead and purchased from the Logic of English, which, if anybody is familiar with students who have dyslexia, and the Orton-Gillingham approach, that is the basis for the Logic of English. So it's a very strategic method and structure of repetition and phonics, and using like multisensory and tactile things. So anyway, I'm really hopeful. I spent a lot of time in prayer about how we were going to do that. I will try my best to update you in the future, but be patient with me, because if you're a homeschooling mom, like, one, these things just take time, and I'm sorting things in my own heart and concerns I have, and wanting to make sure I'm serving my son well and giving him the time that he needs and not rushing him, while also making sure that I'm paying attention if he's going to need some outside support. So those are the 2 changes that we made. Now I want to talk to you about things that have worked really, really well for our family. After we are now on week 20 of the Alveary this year, and so we are like past the midpoint of our year. It's a 36-week curriculum, so week 18 would have been halfway, so we are past halfway. Crazy to think about. But I want to talk to you about what we are loving as a family, what is working really well. So I would say that all of my children are loving Shakespeare. I have a newfound love of Shakespeare. We are using these puppets. I will link the young lady. She's a homeschooled student. I think her website is like Blueberries and Blackberries or something to do with fruit. I met her at a conference this summer, the CMI conference, and she's just delightful. But she draws these, and then you can purchase them on her website. And the kids, it's so helpful to have these to like pull them out in each scene and tell the children who they are listening to. So the way that the Alveary has it set up is I have the play, and I haven't printed it out for all of my kids. They suggest the audio theater series of the play, and that's what we listen to. It's like an act. Maybe every couple weeks you get through a whole act, depending on how many scenes there are. But we use these, and then the same girl, when you purchase these, gives you like a character list, and it tells you which scenes they're in, which is so helpful. I can just pull these out and be like, okay, boys, get, Grimio and Biondello or whoever. So this has been working great. So our process with this is we color these, and I talked to them a little bit about if it's a comedy or if it's a tragedy and whatnot. And sometimes the Alveary has some like character webs or whatnot when I'm introducing it. And then we start listening to it and we sit and narrate it and discuss and talk about any vocabulary. But they've really gotten into it. And then our final thing is we go see the performance. So last term we went and saw Hamlet down in Atlanta at the Shakespeare Tavern, and it was a 5-star experience. We just had a great time. So Shakespeare's working really well. Now I want to talk to you about some of the favorites that each individual student had. So this is all three. All three of my kids are loving the art lessons that we're working through. So there's some different ways that this is approached in Charlotte Mason, but we're doing clay modeling, which they all look forward to. It is a little time intensive, but I feel like it's worth it for the memories and for the joy and practicing precision. And then this was an art lesson the other day that my boys just loved. They got to make their own scratch paper as a continuation of an art lesson talking about different colors and warm and cool colors and whatnot. So anyway, art's going great. My kids are loving it. My middle son, one of the reasons why we chose the Alveary for this year and made that change was science. I was debating on using Sabbath Mood and the Alveary together, but then I was talking to some friends who use the Alveary and looking at what they had to offer, and science is a strength of theirs. They have great Charlotte Mason inspired science lessons from the very first lessons that your students have, your 6-year-olds. But I have my kids make notebooks. I actually have a video on that if you ever want to look at it. But I wanted to show you my boys. They have labs. My 4th and 6th grader do labs together. And I just love that they're getting this amazing, skill of documenting findings, of having these discussions while they're looking through microscopes. I have just been so pleased with the results of this type of lesson. And they have them hypothesize. They're like, what do you think is going to happen? So this is my 9-year-old's notebook from a lab that we just completed. Ooh, it's upside down. And then here is his written narration after we did the lab. So anyway, the next lab is dissecting a model of the heart. And when I told boys in my house that they were going to be dissecting a sheep heart, you should have heard the noise and how excited they were. So for the first time this year, I very anxiously embarked on teaching Plutarch. And it's so interesting because in my circle of very close friends, I have a mentor who's in her 60s, who homeschooled her children, who is well-read, well-educated, well-traveled, well-versed. And when I mentioned that I was going to be teaching my now 12-year-old, he just turned 12 last week, Plutarch this year, she was like, really? She was just in shock. And I honestly had never read Plutarch, had not had exposure to him. I don't recall hearing about him in school, and I feel like I had a pretty decent education overall, public education, private university. Maybe I was like not paying attention when they talked about him. I don't know. I remember Shakespeare, don't remember Plutarch. But we've embarked on Plutarch this year. This is the resource that the Alveary has us using. And I have to say, my eldest son, and I find this reading very cerebral, it's hard to understand. He can narrate this. It blows my mind. I will think that I'm going to have to go over more or hyper explain, which I really try to avoid. And I don't, he gets it. Even at one point, I had to hand it to him and have him do a lesson alone one week. And he did a written narration and I was blown away. I was like, oh my goodness, he's taking this in. He can follow the storyline. He can make his own connections. It's really, really cool when you allow your children the time to digest things and don't try to pre-digest it for them. So this has been my son's favorite thing, my oldest boy's favorite lesson. Yeah, surprisingly so. And then lastly, I want to show you my littlest boy who just turned 8. I think many of you will know this book, but this has been his favorite, and this has been really special. He is my baby. I don't know that I'm going to have any other babies. We neither plan nor don't plan for them, but I'm getting up there, y'all. And this is our snuggle time. This is my little boy. We will get on the couch and we will read this together, and he just delights in it and loves it. If you're not doing the Alveary and you're going to read Pilgrim's Progress at some point, I highly suggest this version with any children, probably 10 and under. My 9-year-old secretly listens to us reading this. I've thought about inviting him into the lesson. He and his little brother did their lessons together last year. However, I've kind of felt like for my younger son's sake, he needed the alone time and the snuggles and kind of the little boy time that he's getting. So I've just let my oldest boy listen vicariously. It's kind of funny because he'll be like over in the corner, like reading another book, his own book that he's been assigned. And then later I'll hear him discussing Little Pilgrim's Progress with his brother, and like he knows what's happening. Somehow he's reading his own book and listening to us at the same time. So anyway, that is kind of where we're at. These are the things that are going well. If you have specific questions, go ahead and ask them. I've had such sweet comments, people noticing that I've not been posting videos as much, asking me when I'll be coming back. To be honest, in the season that I'm in with the schedule that I keep and the things I'm responsible for, creating YouTube content just doesn't always sit on the forefront of my schedule. As much as I have ideas and things I'd love to share, sometimes it's just not possible. So when I'm able, I will come back. If you have things you want me to touch on, feel free to comment below. If you have questions about this video or anything that I shared, you ask me. I do get a lot of comments when I'm seen online about my clothing and my hair, which is always so funny to me because I don't feel like a trendsetter in any way, shape, or form. But I will go ahead and tell you that this particular dress and many of the dresses I'm wearing on a daily basis and really love are coming from super cute dresses. I'm not an affiliate. I don't even think they have an affiliate program. They're a little bit pricey, but they're 98% cotton. And they just are luxurious and they fit so well and they're flattering and beautiful and easy. Also, if you know of a place that I can get a burgundy, what I call a grandpa sweater, I'm looking for like this kind of rust burgundy color, either a deep burgundy or like a rust. It would match several dresses I own and I wear it regularly, but I can't find one. I'm really looking for something cotton. So anyway, totally off topic, but if you have a suggestion or a link for something like that, please drop it in the comment section so I can see it and I would happily buy it. So that's all I have. I hope that you're doing well. I hope you have kicked off the new year with your family and your studies and are enjoying them. And I will be back at some point. If you are on Instagram, please feel free to join me over there. I probably share there more because it's just easy and quick. But that's all I've got for you. Happy learning and enjoy these days with your families because these are the days.